Good morning, everyone. I am not Hui Huber. Unfortunately, I would love to be here, but I can't. I'm Reggie Samuel. Um, and if you think this is going to be a train wreck because this guy can't even spell his name correctly, I actually do spell it with one G, and it is pronounced Reggie. So I do have all my wits about me. I'm Reggie Samuel. Some of you I may have been able to email with recently or in the past, and it's a pleasure to have all of you here in person today. I'm going to be presenting on establishment registration today. And as you know, today's October 2. So we're one day into the registration period, which means today could be the day that you finish your annual re-registration. So hopefully today's presentation that I'll be giving to you today will help you in that process. Just a quick overview. We'll be going over the establishment registration, who, when, and how, just a couple of questions about that. The types of establishment registration SPLs that there are, that you can submit, the document types that are available. Then we'll go into the live demo using CDER Direct, which you will have a great time with. And then we'll go into the labeler code, which Pui will be presenting on. She'll do a live demo, and then we'll take questions for both at the end of her session. So keep note of your questions if you have for my presentation, and we'll take the questions at the end of both of our presentations. So who must register? This is language that you're probably aware of. We might have sent it to you by email. With certain exemptions, any establishment engaged in the manufacture, repacking, relabeling, or salvaging of a drug product for commercial distribution in the US is required to register. And sometimes you may have questions on, am I exempt from this registration because I don't do any of these things? You can always go to our website, and we have a good list of information about who's exempt. A lot of times, when we get to the compliance presentation today, we'll talk about the private label distributors, those who don't do any of these but actually have products that they have for commercial distribution under their own name and label, and I will touch on that. When to register, required within 5 days. You guys have heard this part. Those in the foreign world before a drug is offered for import into the US for commercial distribution. All right, so here's where I'm touching on the private label distributors, because we get this question a good amount. And oftentimes, I know it may be confusing, and you go into registration, the establishment registration SPL, and you see a business operation for label. You believe that must mean private label distributor. That's not what it means. So for private label distributors, you should not register if you don't engage in these things: manufacture, repacking, relabeling, salvaging. So I want to make that clear because I know it's sometimes confusing when you see that business operation for label. Those are for those firms that actually put labeling on a product. So next, registration is used for inspections and imports. That's why it's also very important that you complete your establishment registrations. And finally, we do get this question a lot, those online as well. If your company has successfully registered, you don't have to ask us. You can immediately, after you've submitted your registration, wait about 24 hours because we update that website once daily, every business day. You can go to the DSERS or DECERS website, and your firm, if it is properly registered for the current year, will show up. And it'll say current through the 12/31/2018 or 12/31/2019 after you register today. If your firm doesn't appear in the DECERS report, that means it's not registered. So sometimes those of you that deregister, you want to make sure that your firm is deregistered. Same thing. If you go to your DECERS website, type in the name of your firm, and it doesn't show up, that means you're not in our registration system and you deregistered. Hopefully that makes sense, and I'll get on to more of it. And lastly, another tip is a product listing SPL will fail validation if the establishment is not registered. Sometimes you may submit your product listing SPL, and maybe you have another firm that is manufacturing your product. And you submit the SPL, and all of your information is correct, but it's failing validation. You have to ensure that that establishment that's listed in your product listing SPL is currently registered. All right? I think someone is online here. So, it's really, I'll give Jeff a second. Okay. Hello. Okay. And we're back. Um, annual registration renewals to be set between October 1 and December 31. We are in that time period, so today could be your day. Last note before I get into the demo is expedited updates are to be provided within 30 days of that change. So if you closed or you sold your establishment, something changed in your establishment's name or address, the physical address, or any other information for contact information. I'm sure many of my colleagues here are going to make sure get your contact information updated in every SPL. It will behoove you to do this. Whenever something changes, just go ahead and do it. And that's why we're here. We're going to show you how simple it can be through the use of CDER Direct to update that information in the matter of a minute or two. All right? So make sure you get that information updated. All right, so let's go into the types of registrations there are. The Establishment Registration SPL. This is the document type you will use when you are newly registering an establishment, or you're updating some information regarding your establishment. Adding a new establishment to that registration SPL, which I will go over with you today. This is the Establishment SPL, registration SPL you would use. Then the other document type we have is a no change notification. You're very stable, all the information stays the same, your contact information is staying the same. We've made it easy where you could just change the document type to no change notification. That basically says, hey, FDA, all the information I submitted last year, my previous SPL, nothing has changed. I'm at the same place, I got the same person as my contact, and I'm doing the same business operation. You can submit a no change notification SPL. Third, we have a deregistration SPL, and you would submit this because the firm is no longer manufacturing drug products for commercial distribution in the US. I will make a note about this, and I will get to it in my live demo as well, and that is, when you submit this deregistration SPL, it will deregister all establishments associated with that SPL. So if you had 3 establishments on one registration SPL, all of those would get deregistered. If you just wanted to deregister one, you would have to just delete that particular establishment you don't want and then submit it, but not submit a deregistration SPL. May not make sense right now. I'm going to show it to you when we get to the live demo. And lastly, an out-of-business SPL, very similar to deregistration SPL, but you're basically telling the FDA, it's not just that I'm no longer producing drugs for commercial distribution in the US, I'm out of business. That's the out-of-business notification SPL. Now to the fun part. So if you were sleeping through that whole time, I hope you wake up for this, because this is the live demo that we're going to have on CDER Direct for establishment registration. And let me get there. Here we are. Very quickly here, you don't have a CDER Direct account. Today's your day. You get to create a CDER Direct account, and all you have to do is go here to create account. It's going to ask you a few questions so we can make sure you are you. You can get access to these different types of SPLs, and this can all be edited even after you create an account. You will then get an email just to make sure that your email address is correct. Click on that activation link, ask you to create a password, some security questions. You're in. CDER Direct is yours, and now you get to do everything we get to do today. So those of you in Asia, if it's almost time to go to bed, before you go to bed, the best thing you can do is create a CDER Direct account before you go to bed. You'll get that activation link in a few minutes, and when you wake up in the morning, click on it, and you'll be in and ready to go. Everyone here and also online, another thing we like to tell you is that we do as much as we can. As my esteemed boss said, we are here to help you. So we do as much as we can to ensure you have the things at your fingertips, because we work during the day, but for those of you that are working during our nights, we may not be able to get to your question. So you can go here on CDER Direct. We have all our tutorials, our quick guides, webinar slides available at your disposal at any time. On every single web page, you'll have this box down here for tutorials. Another one that we have quickly is the FAQs. you can actually go to these FAQs, and as you type a question, it will fill in. If you go establishment registration, it'll give you FAQs or frequently asked questions regarding establishment registration. We do our best to give you everything at your fingertips. So that's my quick plug there if you haven't created an account. I'm just going to go ahead and log into my account, which I love to do every day because it brings me joy to log into CDER Direct. And, all right, let me just go in here. And we know sometimes you get, like me, irritated that these passwords have to be so complicated and updated every few months, but it's for your security. So these worked the first time, and it did. It does not often happen. All right. What I'm going to go through with you today, the first thing is just creating a new SPL file. As you can see, it's very beautiful and user-friendly. We do our best to provide that to you as well. You'll see I clicked here on establishment registration on my left side for my submissions. And I will now go to create new / upload file. If I go here and I click on create new, it'll allow me to just type in information. You don't need to know XML. You just have to be able to know how to use a keyboard. And if you do know how to use that, you're gold with CDER Direct. So here I go, and I click on establishment registration, and I'm going to type in the information needed here. I have one set up, so you don't have to watch me type and misspell things. I'm going to go back. I'm also going to actually show you something that's very important. Those of you that are thinking, I don't want to type in all that stuff, Reg. I've already submitted so many times. It takes me so long to have to type in this information. You're in luck. If you just let us know, again, we're here to help you. Let us know that you have submitted a file previously. Maybe that person that was taking care of your SPL files is no longer at your company. Maybe you're just not sure where you left that last SPL file. Email us at edrls@fda.hhs.gov, and we can provide that previously submitted, successfully submitted SPL file to you. You will get a zip file from us. All you'll need to do is save that zip file to your computer. Click on Import an existing establishment registration SPL. Click on Continue. It'll ask you to choose that file. I don't have a file with me, but you'll choose that file, double-click it, and as they say, bada bing, bada boom, it'll be in your automatically pre-populate all the fields for you into CDER Direct. So all you have to do is either update information or just click Submit. So that can be done easily for you. So if you have that question today, you want to get yours done today, let us know. We can provide it to you. Let me go into one that I've already filled out so that you don't have to watch me type. If I go here, you can see my document type is establishment registration. I put in all my information. I'm wondering, we get this question a lot. Reggie, I don't know what you mean by registrant name. Does that mean like the person that's registering, is that the name you're supposed to fill out? Oh man, we thought of everything, didn't we? Anything with a dotted line in CDER Direct, you can go ahead and click on it, and it'll give you help text. As you can see, the registrant doesn't necessarily mean I'm the person typing this in, so that should be my information. You can see what a registrant is here. The registrant is the owner or operator of an establishment that manufactures a drug. The registrant is the official contact for establishment registrations. There you go. You didn't have to ask us, or you don't have to be confused. You could just click on that field with the dotted line, and it'll tell you what that is. So sometimes your answers are right in front of you. Just got to click on it. Here you enter your registrant contact details. As I put that stuff in, as you can see, this is all fake data. And then here's your establishment. This is where the action is happening, so to speak. Often we see in the registered information, it's maybe a headquarters where things are being taken care of. That's what they put there. Or it could be the same exact information as the establishment information. So if I already put one in, but what you would have done is click on Add Establishment, and it would have been empty here. Again, to save time, unfortunately we don't have an infinite amounts of it, or else I would be showing you CDER Direct all year long. Here we are. I already filled something in. And as you can see, it's going to ask you for your establishment address. Here is a very important note. In your establishment address, you want to make sure that the address you enter is the same as what you have provided to Dun and Bradstreet. If it is not the same, you will get an error saying it's not the same, and you need to edit it. So if you're not sure what Dun & Bradstreet has on file, make sure you go and check with Dun & Bradstreet. You'll see what they have. Make sure the addresses that you entered in Dun & Bradstreet and here are the same. Also here, to make things easy for you, if your establishment contact information details is the same as what you put in for your registrant contact details, you can just click this button and it will automatically bring that over so you don't need to type anymore. Also, if your country is anything other than United States for the establishment address, you will have to provide US agent information. So as you can see here, what CDER Direct does, so you don't get confused, if I put something other than the US, this information will pop up. However, if I were to put in United States, you'll see that the US agent information disappears, so you don't get confused. So that's what happens there. And also, the line for importers was taken away, because if you're in the US, you wouldn't need to import it. You're already here. So if I click any other, just randomly, I'm picking a random country, you'll see that the importer box comes up. You can have multiple importers. All you'll have to do is click on the plus button, provide the importer name and their DUNS number and contact information. If you say you made a mistake, I typed something in and it's not right, I actually don't want this importer anymore, just click the X and it's gone. Lastly, business operations. This is where you'll tell us what is the business operation that's being done. And here's the business operation qualifiers. You can have multiple business operations for your establishment. So they could do manufacturing, and you would just click the plus sign, they do analysis, etc., etc. Make a mistake, click on the X. Minutes, all right. Let me go back here. Now, once you've gotten everything in there, so I'm good to go, Reggie. All right, you click Submit SPL. Once you click Submit SPL, it'll tell me if I have any field level errors, meaning it hasn't gone through the actual full validation process. It's just making sure that some of these fields are filled in that are required. You would just make that change. I got to make this, I'm supposed to be Maryland, I'll put that there. And I click Submit SPL. It's not going to go through because there's some fields I didn't fill in. Once you do that, your SPL here, the status will change to awaiting acceptance. So you got to play the waiting game for a little bit, because it has to go through a automatic validation process on the back end. Once that's done, you don't have to sit here and wait and wait and wait until that changes. Once it's done, you'll get an email at your CDER Direct account saying, hey, the status of your SPL submission has changed. Once you get that email, then you know something has changed with your SPL, and you can see if you failed or passed. Now, if it failed, like I did the first time, that's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay. You can try again. You'll get through. It's not a reflection on what you've done. It's just that you forgot to fill in some information. So here, as you can see, it says the postal code must be 5 digits. I put in followed by a dash by 4 numbers, if it's not the USA. So I have to just change that information. As you can see, if you click on this, it'll take you exactly to where it says go to error. It'll take you to the error with a red box around it. Once I change that, click submit again. Hopefully, you'll see a message that says submission accepted. That means your submission has gone through the validation process, and now you're good to go. When you come in next year, or let's say something changes, and you're wondering, I have to go through this whole process again, I got to do all these things, you don't. When you come back into your CDER Direct account, this information will be saved. So when you come in next year and you need to re-register, all you'll need to do is go to Submission Accepted, click on it. You're like, I can't type anything, Reg. Just click on Create New Version. This will automatically update the version number, keep the set ID the same, and update the root ID for you. Also, you'll say, okay, here I am. Now it's unlocked. Let's say, hey, Troy's not with me anymore. I'm going to put Pui's name, and I'm going to put the new email address. And let's say that's all I needed to change. Click Submit SPL. You're re-registered. It took you less than 25 seconds. Good job. You did great. That's all you needed to do. Now, if there is, and the last thing I'll get to is I have 1 minute, 30 seconds left. Let's say you had multiple establishments. We get this question quite a lot. Let's say you had multiple establishments in here. I'm not going to do the whole thing because it will fail. Let's say you had 2 establishments here. Picture it with me. And I don't want this established anymore because I forgot to mention this. Once you submit your establishment registration the first time, you will not have an FEI number. So that will be left blank, as you can see here. It's the first time registering this firm, not a required field. That FEI number will be assigned to you by the district monitor from where you are. That FEI number is not assigned by the Duralis staff. So you will get that. And then once you receive that FEI number, you would have to go back into your establishment registration like I did. Click on Submission Accepted. Type in whatever that FEI number is. Click Save. Click Submit. Now when you go to the DSER's website, the FEI number will appear within 24 hours on a business day. All right? And lastly, deregistration. If I wanted to deregister just one establishment, I would just go into that previously submitted establishment registration SPL and click Delete Establishment. If I had one, or if I had 2 or more, that's what I would do to deregister establishment. Just delete that one that's on your already submitted establishment registration, and then delete it and click on Submit. That takes it out. But if you had 4, or just one, or if you really wanted to deregister all of them, or say all of them are out of business, all you would have to do is click on this and click on Establishment Deregistration and click Submit. Any establishments associated with this particular SPL will all be deregistered. Or if nothing changed, like you want to do it every year and nothing changed, previously you were here, click on the document type and click on No Change Notification and click Submit. That's it. All you've got to do. All right? And let me go back to here. Last slide. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Just make sure that whatever you enter in your establishment address matches what's in DUNS. Make sure all your email addresses, especially your email addresses, please make sure your email addresses are up to date. We will send you notifications, the fun notifications to remind you, because you may forget. We won't spam you. We won't sell your email address. Just make sure we have the correct one. We want to make sure we can communicate with you so we can help you. And lastly, I mentioned those. So hopefully these tips were helpful to you. And if you have any questions, please save them until Pui's finished with her presentation. Thank you so much. Register today. Make an account in CDER today first, then re-register, and you'll be set to go for 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. Hello, everyone. This morning, I'm going to talk about labeler code, and I will be presenting a demonstration on how to submit a labeler code request using CDER Direct. But before I get started, I just want to warn you that I'm not as high energy and excited as Reggie, so please don't fall asleep, especially for people that have logged in from India and other places. The 3 sets of numbers that you see on the screen is an example of an NDC, or National Drug Code. The first set, the first 5 digits, is the labeler code, and this is assigned by the FDA, and it is associated to the labeler code identifies the company or firm. The second set is the product code, and it identifies the dosage form or strength of a product. And the last one is a package code, and it identifies the package size or type. So both the product code and package code numbers are proposed by the firm, And the labeler code is proposed. The labeler code is assigned by the FDA. One thing I want to mention is that we get a lot of questions regarding multiple labeler codes. For example, we get questions like, my company has multiple locations. Do I need a labeler code for each site? And the answer is no, you don't. If you have multiple locations and they're under the same company, they can use the same labeler code. Each establishment have to be registered. They should get a DUNS number and FEI, but they do not need a separate labeler code. You do not need a separate labeler code for each site. Labeler code requests should be submitted when first introducing a product into commercial distribution. Do not apply for a labeler code if you do not have any products to list with the FDA. So if you're a drug application holder or sponsor and you are not involved in any manufacturing or distributing of the product, you do not have to register or list, so do not apply for a labeler code. We get that question quite a bit. And if you have any questions regarding your business operation or whether you have to register or list, on page 17 of the EDERList toolkit, there's a table called Summary of Registration and Listing Requirements. We hope that can answer some of your questions regarding whether you have to register or list. So any labeler code that is not listed but used for purpose of listing will be automatically inactivated within 24 months. So what I'm about to present to you next is extremely important. I know most of you have gone through the labeler code process. You probably already have a labeler code. So if there's anything you can take away from my presentation, it should be this. So please take notes. Any labeler information, such as the physical address, email, contact number, any of this information, must be updated within 30 calendar days. It's also in the Code of Federal Regulations. This is extremely important because we use this information to communicate any information regarding a listing deficiency or any information, any issues with your products or registration. In the past couple of weeks, if you have not received a reminder email, it's most likely because you have a bad email address with us. So please make sure you update your contact information. Okay, we'll go on to the live demo now. Since Reggie already went over all the information regarding creating a new account and resources here, I won't go over them. So you can just click log into your account. It went through. And so this is the home page of CDER Direct. This is how your CDER Direct account will look like, and it has all the submissions that you've created in the past. So to submit a labeler code, you will click on this labeler code request submission here that's highlighted. If you don't see this form in your account, make sure that you go into your user profile. I think Reggie went over it. Oh, go into your user profile and make sure that labeler code request is one of the forms that you want to access. Okay, so I will click on labeler code request. And this shows you all the submissions that I've created in the past. One is in draft. I have one that's accepted and one that has failed submission. So for this demo, I'm going to create a new labeler code. And once you click on create, there's going to be a pop-up that says, that warns you that, it is preferable for you to wait until you have a product to list. And it also gives you some important information like the processing times, which is 7 to 10 business days. Click OK, and you have the option to create a new labeler code or import an existing one. So all the header detail in every SPL is the same except for the document type. Labeler code has two types of document. One is to request a labeler code, and the other one is to inactivate a labeler code. The set ID is very important. It is what the FDA uses to link submissions over time. You can think of this as a case ID. So with any updates that you need to make sure that you use the original set ID. If you have any questions about the field, you can just click on it, and it gives you information on what to enter. So you can enter the labeler name, labeler DUNS. I want to mention this, that one of the top reasons why we reject labeler codes is because you have the wrong address. The address that you enter in here has to match the DUNS address that you have in DNB. So please make sure that is correct. I'm not going to type in. I'm going to show you one that's already filled out. So once you enter your labeler contact details and contact address, you have the option to enter additional labeler details. Now, this part is optional, but if you do fill it all up, it expedites your labeler code request. If the additional labeler detail is the same as the contact information, you can just click on this checkbox that says same as labeler contact address, and all the information will be automatically populated for you. And last, you have business operations. So you can select the appropriate business operation for you. And once you've filled it out, you can save it as a draft, or if you're ready to submit, you can click on submit. Now let's say that the labeler request went through, the submission was accepted, like the one you see here, and you got a labeler code. The next step is very important. You have to resubmit a labeler code request with the assigned number. Unless you do this, you cannot move on to the next step of listing your product. So to do that, you can just click on a submission that was accepted, your labeler code request that was accepted. You will click on it. And here, you have to click on create new version before you do that. So once you do that, all the root ID, the version number, all of this information is automatically updated for you. And you can enter the labeler code. So once you enter the labeler code, you hit submit, and that's it. You've completed the labeler code process. I just want to mention that if you are requesting the labeler code, you don't enter any numbers in here. Only after you receive the labeler code, to complete the process, you enter the labeler code in here, create a new version, and hit submit SPL. Okay, and that's all I have for CDER, labeler code using CDER Direct. I have a couple more slides to go over. So this is a summary of what I just went through. So labeler code process is a 4-step process. Step 1, you submit your labeler code request and make sure you leave the labeler code field blank if you're requesting a labeler code. We will evaluate the information and contact, the point of contact that you have on the labeler if we have any questions. And this third step is FDA will email the point of contact with the assigned labeler code, and we also have instructions on how to complete the process. And step 4 is to complete the labeler code process by submitting an updated labeler code SPL with the assigned number filled in. How to inactivate, reactivate a labeler code. So if you're inactivating a labeler code, you submit the document type NDC labeler code inactivation. And if you are reactivating a labeler code that was previously inactivated, you can submit a labeler code request with the original set ID that you used to inactivate the labeler code. And step 3 is to reactivate a labeler code that was automatically inactivated by the FDA because you have not used that labeler code to list any product. You will need to send an email to fda.hhs.gov, and we need the proposed label information, intended NDC, the start marketing date, and any product information that you can give us. We will review this information and determine if the product should be reactivated or not. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, you may ask Reggie.
So do I understand it correctly? You're deferring all questions to Reggie?
All questions to Reggie.
Reggie, you better come back up here then.
Actually, we will ask several members of the Derlis staff to field questions. We will try to focus the questions, particularly the ones online, to what the particular session was about. We're getting a lot of questions about drug listing and certification already. Hopefully, our presentations will answer some of those questions for you. So for now, we'd like to limit the questions right now to registration and labeler code process. And if you have a question, please, feel free to step up to the microphone, those of you in the room. If not, we've gotten a slew of questions online, and I will read them from back here.
Perfect. And as Paul pointed out, if you have questions in the room, please come on up to the microphones. Those of you online, we've got lots of the questions that have come in, and we'll be getting to those. Paul, go ahead. One
more announcement. Sorry, folks. The one question from my keynote speech was, where is the link to the eDerlis toolkit on the website? For right now, it's buried a little bit. We will make it a little more prominent, but if you go to the eDerlis webpage, fda.gov/eDRLS, and then click on the right where it says drug registration listing instructions. So if you go to the eDerlis instructions page, scroll all the way down under related links, you will see it. We just put in a request to our web folks to put it under the resources for you column up top. So for now, though, just navigate to the eDerlis instructions page and scroll to the bottom. Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and start with the first question in the room. Nice and close to the microphone, please.
Is there a web browser that works best with the CDER Direct, or does it not matter, like Internet Explorer, Chrome, whatever, it's all fine?
You can, I'll take this question. You can use, we have made it compatible with all of those that you've mentioned, and I will show you here on the our website. You'll see here which ones. If you click on browser requirements at the bottom of of all of those pages on CDER Direct, it'll tell you what version of the browser we support and whatever's higher than that. You'll see that on there.
Excellent. And again, if there's any questions in the room, come on up to the microphone. But let's go ahead and take our first online question, please.
Okay. Where was it? We did annual registration using SPL and submitting through the ESG, the Electronic Systems Gateway. Is CDER Direct the recommended way to submit now? You want me to answer that? You are not required to use CDER Direct. I know I should step up forward, but I can answer this really fast. We like it. We developed it. We think it's very user-friendly, but no, there is no recommended way to submit a valid registration or any SPL file to us. Next question.
Paul, can I add one more thing?
Yes,
And
please.
if those that are wondering, you don't need an ESG account or a WebTrader account in order to use CDER Direct. You just need a web browser and a computer.
While you're standing, Reggie, do establishments who only repackage or relabeler need to submit establishment registration?
So any establishments that is involved in the manufacturing process of any drug entering U.S. commercial distribution must register with FDA, and that includes any manufacturer from API to finished dosage form, to repackagers, relabelers, the ones involved in the contract packaging or labeling the product, analytical lab, you name it. Anybody that basically touches the drug must register with FDA. And yes, that includes repackagers and relabelers.
If you plan to submit a no change notification to Renew, how can you review the contact information and refresh that? Can you do that?
Can you repeat the question?
A person wishes to select no change notification to Renew, but they want to know how they can still verify the contact information and know whether it needs to change or not.
That's a good question. When you submit a no change notification for the first time, when you've gone into CDER Direct and said submission accepted, you will see your contact information from previously. Once you click no change notification, only the header details will show up. But you can always click back to Establishment Registration SPL to see what you've entered. If it needs to be updated, then you would go ahead and update it. However, if you've previously submitted a no change notification and you go back into CDER Direct and that's what you previously submitted, you won't see any contact details there. You would have to either ask us or see what is previously submitted on the your previous submission in CDER Direct.
Yes. In other words, if you need to review the data, please, before you submit a no change. And if it needs to be changed, change it through an update to registration. Otherwise, you can do the no changes. Thank you. Are there plans to add device registration to the system? Thought I'd throw out. We get a few device questions, and right now, no. That's up to the Center for Devices. What is the business operation qualifier in establishment registration? Why should we use that?
Okay. Yeah, the business qualifier is something that gives us a little bit more information on what type of manufacturing process. Okay. The qualifier gives us a little bit more information as far as what exact manufacturing operation that you're conducting at the site. Okay, and so that's important for us to know. Important for a lot of reasons, but for you, the most important thing is that it's required. So you want to make sure that you put that in. And if you have any questions about what kind of operation that you're doing, feel free to email us at eDurlist. Explain exactly what you're doing in your words, and we'll work with you to try to determine a qualifier.
Next question. If a PLD, private label distributor, has a listed product, 1,000 count tablet, say, and wants to have those repacked into hundreds by a packager, does the PLD need to register their establishment, I assume the packager's establishment, as a repackager?
I think all of us can answer that question.
Yes.
We're trying to see who's going next. No, if you have somebody actually repackaging the drug for you and you are not necessarily doing the repackaging, the product just goes in the market under your name and NDC, you're still a private label distributor and you're not required to register, and you should not register.
If the question, not knowing the intent of the person asking the question. If it was whether the packager needs to register, the answer is yes,
Yes.
and yes, they should register as a repackager if they're taking it out of the original packaging. But yes, thank you, Layla. This one is, I guess, for Pui or for Reggie. After receiving the labeler code and submitting back with the labeler code is issued and it's issued, what happens? The submission is accepted, but do we get another email or confirmation of activation of the labeler code? What happens after they confirm the assignment?
So once you complete the process, we have a list of active labeler codes on the website. You can just Google labeler code, FDA labeler codes, and there's a list of active labeler codes, and you can search for your labeler code there, and if you find it, it's active. You don't send a separate confirmation to let you know that your labeler code is active.
And this will be this is a very specific question about name changes to companies. This person's company was taken over by another one. The company name changed, but the location is the same. Can somebody describe the general process for changing the name associated with the labeler code and the establishment and such?
So a name change, if is only for the labeler, then all you need to update is the labeler code request SPL. So you access the previous SPL, update the name and resubmit. And remember, you have 30 days to send the latest update. If this labeler is also a registrant, then you have two things to update, of course. That will be labeler code request SPL and your registration SPL. And then the data does not get actually transferred to all your listing SPLs, so then your listing SPLs will be next.
We have 4 products. One's manufactured in the US, 3 are manufactured outside of the US, but we are not ourselves manufacturing or packaging. Do I or do all 4 sites have to be registered? Do our 4 manufacturing sites also have to register and specifically list our product, being the PLD's product, as being manufactured by them?
So the question is 3 manufacturing facilities outside US?
Yeah,
and then 1 here that does not manufacture.
Yeah, in other words, I think it's a PLD and contract manufacturer. They just have
so they don't have they just have a business relationship. They're not under common ownership.
I would assume so, yes, correct.
Okay, so let's imagine that there are companies that are here in the US and they have contract manufacturers that are outside US and they do not have, they are not under common ownership. If they're not under common ownership, the one in the US, again, if not engaged in any drug manufacturing activity, is considered a private label distributor and should not register. The ones outside the US, again, depending on if they have any kind of ownership, they are under common ownership, they either send 1 registration SPL and include all 3 establishments under 3, like with all 3 establishments under that 1 registration SPL. If they are not under common ownership, they have to each separately send separate registration SPLs. Anyone that registers with FDA is also required to list. If this scenario changes to the one that is in the US is with the ones that are outside the US are under common ownership, that actually changes because then that exemption applies. We always, however, suggest that any drug that is being imported, you list it with FDA regardless, because then that does not delay your importation process.
Here's a quick hitter. Does a firm have to register if it's only doing contract manufacturing for a drug under an IND?
No, if something is being manufactured for IND or other research purposes, it does not need to be registered. Only final drugs and drugs that are going to be on the market should be registered.
Do U.S. agents need to register or obtain labeler codes?
No, they do not register, and unless they are a PLD as well, they don't need a labeler code.
And again, if there's any questions here in the room, feel free to jot them down, come on up to the microphones, but let's go ahead and take our next online question.
No, most of them are all now dealing with listing and the next set of subjects. So I think we're good for now, and let's move on.
All right, then it seems like we're going to get an early start on our break. Our break is set for 10:30 to 10:45. So go ahead and take a break now, and we'll see you back to start with session number 2 at 10:45.